The baby monitor crackled to life at 2:17 a.m., but it wasn't Emma's soft breathing I heard through the static. It was Derek's voice, low and rehearsed, drifting from his home office down the hall. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Claire, we need to talk. I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I believe it's time we consider separating. I froze in our bed, my hand suspended over the monitor's volume control. The cool silk sheets suddenly felt like ice against my skin. No, that sounds too weak, Derek muttered to himself. Let me try again. A pause. Then his voice returned, stronger this time, more confident. Claire, I want a divorce. This marriage isn't working anymore, and I think we both know it. I've already consulted with an attorney, and I believe the best path forward is an amicable separation where we can both move on with our lives. My heart hammered against my ribs, but not from shock, not from heartbreak, from the cold, crystalline clarity that sometimes comes in moments of absolute betrayal. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, fingers steady as I opened the voice recording app. The baby monitor continued transmitting his practiced monologue while I captured every word. I'll keep the house, obviously, Derek continued, his tone shifting to something almost businesslike. You can have your car and whatever personal items you want. I'll be generous with support payments for Emma, but I think primary custody makes sense with me given my stable career and income. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I saved the recording, titled it with the date and time, and uploaded it to 3 separate cloud storage accounts. Old habits from my previous life, the one Derek knew nothing about. Mom's going to help me through this, he said, and now there was a hint of something else in his voice. Relief? Excitement? She's already found a family lawyer. Says with your employment history, or lack thereof, the court will see things clearly. Employment history. The phrase hung in the air like poison. Before we begin this journey together, I want to thank you for being here. If you're finding strength in these stories, consider subscribing. It's free, and it helps build our community of resilience. Now, let's continue. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. 9 years of marriage, and Derek still didn't know that the unemployed housewife he'd married was actually the silent partner in Meridian Capital Group, one of the most successful private equity firms in the Northeast. Or that the inheritance I'd mentioned early in our relationship was actually a carefully constructed fiction to explain away the comfortable lifestyle I maintained. My father had taught me young. Show them what they expect to see, Claire, he'd said, years before his hedge fund made him a household name on Wall Street. The real players don't need everyone knowing their hand. So when I met Derek at my college roommate's wedding 7 years ago, I'd been careful. The modest Toyota instead of my Aston Martin. The rental apartment instead of my penthouse. The story about working as a freelance graphic designer instead of the truth that I'd already built a portfolio worth 8 figures by age 25. Derek had seemed perfect then. Charming, ambitious, working his way up at a mid-sized pharmaceutical company. He talked about wanting a family, about building a life together, about partnership. I'd been 28 and tired of men who saw dollar signs when they looked at me. Derek saw a woman he thought he could provide for, protect, mold into the perfect corporate wife. I let him believe it. The monitor crackled again as Derek cleared his throat. The timing is actually perfect, he continued, and I could hear papers rustling. With the promotion to senior director coming through next month, I'll have the income to support 2 households. Jessica thinks we should wait until after the holidays to tell Claire, but I don't know if I can keep pretending that long. Jessica. The name landed like a physical blow, not because of the betrayal, but because of the confirmation. I'd suspected for 3 months, ever since Derek's late nights at the office started coinciding with Jessica Hartman's Instagram posts from the wine bar 2 blocks from his building. Jessica, his 26-year-old assistant with the law degree she never used, and the trust fund she absolutely did. I moved to my closet, the one Derek thought held just my modest wardrobe of Target dresses and discount shoes. The false back panel opened silently, revealing the safe I'd installed during our 2nd year of marriage. Inside, neatly organized in labeled folders, was my real life. Partnership agreements, investment portfolios, property deeds, and most importantly, the prenuptial agreement Derek had signed without reading too carefully, the one drafted by my attorneys and structured to protect everything I'd built. She understands me in ways Claire never has. Derek's voice drifted through the monitor. Jessica gets the pressure I'm under, the ambitions I have. Claire's just content. Content to stay home, content to drift through life without any real goals. It's suffocating. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Chen, my partner at Meridian, and one of the few people who knew about my double life. Late-night reading quarterly reports. You up? Marcus and I had built Meridian together, straight out of business school. While everyone else was chasing Wall Street glory, we'd quietly assembled a portfolio of undervalued companies and turned them into gold mines. He'd been best man at my wedding, playing the role of old college friend perfectly, while Derek remained oblivious to the fact that Marcus and I controlled a fund worth nearly $3 billion. I typed back, listening to my husband practice his divorce speech. Interesting night? 3 dots appeared immediately then. Recording it? Obviously. Need me to call the legal team? I smiled in the darkness of my closet. Already drafting the email. My laptop emerged from the safe, a custom-built machine that Derek had never seen. It powered up silently, connecting through encrypted channels to Meridian's secure network. My email to Stephanie Winters, the most ruthless divorce attorney in 3 states and a woman who'd helped me structure my prenup, was brief. Stephanie, time to activate the contingency plan we discussed. Husband is planning to file. I want to file first. Client meeting, 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'll bring recordings. I copied Marcus, our corporate counsel, and our head of security. Within minutes, responses pinged back. Everyone was ready. Everyone had been ready since the day I walked down the aisle, because that's what you do when you have everything to lose. The monitor crackled again. I've been documenting everything, Derek said, and now there was something smug in his voice. The days she forgets to do laundry, the times she orders takeout instead of cooking, how she zones out during Emma's bedtime routine. It'll all help show she's not engaged, not present. Not the kind of mother who should have primary custody. My jaw clenched. He was building a case, had been for months probably. Every small imperfection, every human moment of tiredness with a 2-year-old, cataloged and weaponized. What Derek didn't know was that I'd been documenting too. But my documentation was digital, sophisticated, and comprehensive. The private investigator's reports on his affair with Jessica, the forensic accountant's analysis of his expense reports, showing thousands in charges to fancy restaurants and hotels, all carefully timed with Jessica's social media posts from the same locations. The security footage from our own home that I'd had installed last year under the guise of safety for Emma. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I pulled up the files now, scanning through months of evidence. Derek taking company calls in his office, revealing proprietary information to impress his mistress. Derek using our joint credit card, the one he managed and thought I never checked, to buy jewelry that never made it home to me. Derek's search history on the family computer, looking up divorce strategies and how to hide assets. That last one was particularly amusing, considering he had no assets to hide. Everything was mine. The house was purchased through one of my holding companies before we married. The cars, titled to shell corporations. Even his precious home office furniture had been gifts from me, bought through intermediaries so he'd never question where a struggling freelancer's money came from. "I need to be strong," Derek's voice continued through the monitor. "She'll cry, probably beg. That's what women like her do when they realize their comfortable life is ending. But I have to remember, I'm doing this for me, for my happiness, for my future with someone who actually appreciates what I bring to the table. Someone who appreciates what he brings to the table." The irony was so thick I could taste it. Derek brought nothing to our table. The table itself was mine, a custom-made piece from an Italian artisan that cost more than his annual salary. The food on that table purchased with my money. The roof over that table held up by my investments. Even the salary he was so proud of, earned at a pharmaceutical company that Meridian had acquired 70% of 3 years ago. Derek worked for me and didn't even know it. I pulled up another file, this one containing the real estate portfolio. 17 properties across 6 states, all generating steady income. Derek thought we rented this house, a nice 4-bedroom colonial in an upscale suburb. He had no idea I owned the entire street, purchased strategically over 5 years through different LLCs. Our neighbors, the friendly Johnsons on the left and the quiet Patels on the right, sent their rent checks to one of my property management companies every month. The Aston Martin was in storage, along with the Porsche and the vintage Mercedes my father left me. Derek had never asked why I kept a storage unit, and I'd never volunteered the information. Let him think it held childhood memories and old textbooks. My phone buzzed again. Marcus calling this time. I answered on the first ring, voice barely above a whisper. "Tell me you're not doing anything rash," he said. "Define rash." "Claire." I smiled despite everything. Marcus knew me too well. "I'm being perfectly rational. Recording everything, documenting the documentation, preparing for war." "Good. Because Stephanie just sent me her preliminary strategy, and it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. When this is over, Derek won't have his job, his reputation, or even the memory of ever having the upper hand. Tell me. Tomorrow. In person. Full team. But the short version? We're going scorched earth, legally speaking. File first, file hard, and make sure every judge, every mediator, every person in that courthouse knows exactly who Derek Richardson really is." Through the monitor, I could hear Derek's chair scraping back. "Okay, that's enough practice for tonight. Tomorrow I'll call Mom and confirm the lawyer meeting next week. By Christmas, this will all be over, and I can start my real life." His footsteps moved toward the door. I had maybe 30 seconds before he'd walk past Emma's nursery and potentially notice the baby monitor's transmission light was on. I powered down my laptop, closed the safe, sealed the false panel, and slipped back into bed. The bedroom door opened quietly. Derek's silhouette appeared in the doorway, backlit by the hall light. He stood there for a moment, watching me feign sleep. Then he moved closer, and I felt him lean over the bed. "Soon," he whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear. "Soon I'll be free of you." He turned and walked to his side of the bed, the mattress dipping as he settled in. Within minutes, his breathing had evened into sleep. The sleep of someone who thought he held all the cards, who believed he was the one in control of this narrative. I lay there in the darkness, eyes open, mind calculating. 3 hours until Emma would wake for her early morning bottle. 4 hours until Derek's alarm would go off. 5 hours until my meeting with Stephanie and the legal team. My phone was still recording, capturing Derek's soft snores, creating an audio timeline that would prove useful later. Everything was evidence now. Everything mattered. At 5:30 a.m., I slipped out of bed again. Derek didn't stir. He never did. Hadn't for years. The enthusiastic partner who'd once noticed every detail had faded into a man who barely saw me at all. A man who thought he was married to someone small, someone manageable, someone who would crumble when he finally delivered his practiced speech. Emma was starting to fuss in her crib. I lifted her warm, sleep-soft body against my chest, breathing in that particular baby smell that made everything else fade for a moment. My daughter. The one thing in this marriage that mattered more than money, more than pride, more than revenge. Mama's got you, I whispered into her dark curls. Mama's got everything under control. I carried her downstairs to the kitchen, morning light just starting to filter through the windows. This house that Derek thought we barely afforded. These marble countertops he believed stretched our budget. The espresso machine he'd suggested we return because it was too extravagant. I made Emma's bottle with one hand, bouncing her gently with the other. She grabbed for my hair, gurgling happily. 2 years old, with Derek's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. In his practice speech, he'd talked about custody like it was a negotiation, a business transaction where he could claim the primary role because of his stable career. He had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed with an incoming email. Stephanie Winters, even earlier than expected. Claire, received your message. I've been waiting for this call since you first came to me 5 years ago. We're ready. Strategy session at 9 a.m. as requested, but I'm sending preliminary documents now for your review. Bottom line, with what you've built and protected, Derek will be lucky to leave with his toothbrush. See you soon. Attached were 47 pages of legal strategy, and I smiled as I scanned the subject headers. Exhibit A, prenuptial agreement with ironclad asset protection. Exhibit B, documentary evidence of infidelity. Exhibit C, financial misconduct and corporate espionage. Exhibit D, custody evaluation criteria showing mother's superior position. Derek thought he was planning a divorce. What he was actually doing was walking into an ambush that had been years in the making, fortified by every careful decision I'd made to protect myself and my daughter. Emma finished her bottle and snuggled against my shoulder, her small fist clutching my shirt. Through the window, I could see the first golden rays of sun touching the perfectly landscaped yard. Derek's car sat in the driveway, a mid-level BMW he was so proud of, financed at 7% interest because he didn't know I could have bought it outright with pocket change. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. Every assumption he'd made was about to crumble. I heard water running upstairs, Derek starting his morning routine. In an hour, he'd come down for breakfast, kiss Emma on the head, maybe grunt a good morning in my direction. He'd put on one of his tailored suits, the ones I'd bought him for his birthday, and head off to his important job at the pharmaceutical company. He'd probably text Jessica from the car, making plans for their future together. And I would smile and wave, playing the role of oblivious wife one last time. Because at 9 a.m., I'd walk into Stephanie Winters' office as Claire Richardson, quiet housewife. And I'd walk out as Claire Montgomery Richardson, managing partner of Meridian Capital Group, woman with a net worth that would make Derek's head spin, mother who was about to show him exactly what happened when you underestimated the wrong person. The baby monitor still sat on the kitchen counter where I'd brought it down. I picked it up, turning it over in my free hand. Such a simple device, meant to keep children safe. Derek had suggested we get it, said he wanted to be able to hear Emma even from his office. He'd given me the weapon that would destroy him. I uploaded the recordings to one final location, a secure server that even a court order couldn't touch, then systematically backed them up across multiple platforms. The originals went into my safe, burned onto 3 separate drives, each labeled and dated. Emma yawned against my shoulder, her tiny body growing heavy with approaching sleep. I carried her back upstairs, careful to avoid the creaky 3rd step. Derek was in the shower now, steam escaping from under the bathroom door. His phone sat on the nightstand, charging. I shouldn't have looked. I knew what I'd find. But the compulsion was too strong. The phone unlocked with his passcode, the same one he'd been using for years. Emma's birthday. The irony of using our daughter's information to protect his infidelity wasn't lost on me. Jessica's texts filled the screen. Can't wait until you're free. This sneaking around is getting old. Your wife sounds like a real piece of work. You deserve so much better. Did you practice the speech? Remember, confident and firm. Don't let her guilt you. Mom already has the spare room ready for you. You can move in here until you find your own place. There were more, hundreds probably, but I'd seen enough. I took photos of the text thread, methodically scrolling and capturing everything, then locked the phone and placed it back exactly as I'd found it. The shower turned off. I had minutes. Back in Emma's nursery, I laid her down in her crib. She immediately rolled to her side, thumb finding her mouth, dark lashes fanning across her cheeks. Perfect, innocent, unaware that her world was about to shift dramatically. But she'd be safe. That was what mattered. She'd be with me, in a home filled with truth instead of lies, with resources instead of pretense, with a mother who would move heaven and earth to protect her. I heard Derek moving around in the bedroom, getting dressed. Time to start the performance one last time. When I walked back into our room, he was buttoning his shirt, navy blue with subtle pinstripes. Professional. Serious. The costume of a man who thought he was in control. "Morning," I said softly, playing my role. "Coffee's almost ready." He barely glanced at me. "Thanks. Big day today? Lots of meetings." No meetings. I'd checked his calendar through the company's back-end system I had access to as a majority shareholder. Derek had the day relatively free, which meant he'd probably be spending it with Jessica, planning their future while I planned his reckoning. "I might take Emma to the park later," I continued, maintaining the fiction. "If the weather holds." Sure." He was focused on his reflection in the mirror now, adjusting his collar just so. "Actually, I might be late tonight. Project deadline." No deadline. Just another lie in the tower of deception he'd built. "Okay," I said, injecting just the right note of resigned acceptance into my voice. "I'll save you a plate." He finally looked at me then, really looked, and for a moment something flickered across his face. Guilt? Doubt? Then it was gone, replaced by the cool dismissal I'd grown accustomed to. "You know what? Don't bother. I'll probably grab something with the team." The team being Jessica, obviously. He left 20 minutes later, the garage door rumbling closed behind his BMW. I stood at the window and watched him drive away, past the Johnsons' house on the left and the Patels' house on the right, properties he'd pass every day without knowing they were mine. The clock read 7:15 a.m., 1 hour and 45 minutes until my meeting. I moved with purpose now, the performance over. The real Claire could emerge. I showered quickly, washing away the role of meek housewife. The woman who looked back at me from the bathroom mirror was different from the one Derek thought he knew. Stronger jaw, sharper eyes. The carefully maintained softness fell away, revealing the steel beneath. My real clothes were in the back of the closet, the section Derek never bothered exploring. Armani suit in charcoal gray, Louboutin heels, Cartier watch that cost more than Derek made in 6 months. I dressed methodically, each piece of armor sliding into place. The woman in the mirror now looked like who she really was, someone who'd built an empire before 30, who'd navigated boardrooms filled with men twice her age and come out on top, who'd learned from her father that power meant nothing if you didn't know how to protect it. My phone rang. "Marcus, you ready for this?" he asked without preamble. I've been ready since the day I said I do. Stephanie's assembling the war room, full team. She's bringing 3 associates and her senior partner. This isn't going to be a divorce case, Claire. This is going to be a demolition. Good. The pharmaceutical company angle is particularly beautiful, Marcus continued, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. Not only will Derek lose his marriage, but once our board finds out he's been sharing confidential information with his mistress, he'll lose his job too. And since we control 70%, what the board decides is what we decide. I want it clean, I said. No room for appeals, no technicalities he can exploit. When this is over, I want it airtight. It will be. Stephanie doesn't lose, and she definitely doesn't lose when she has a client with your resources and this much evidence. Emma started crying from her nursery, the real cry that meant she was truly awake now. I checked the time, 8:05 a.m. I need to go, I told Marcus. Call the nanny, tell her I need her here in 20 minutes. Emergency rate. Already done. She's on her way. Of course she was. Marcus knew me too well, knew my patterns, knew that when I committed to something, every detail would be handled. The nanny, Sarah, arrived at 8:23 a.m. She was a graduate student in early childhood development, someone I'd carefully vetted and hired through an agency, though Derek thought she was just a neighborhood teenager who helped out occasionally. Sarah knew the truth, had signed an NDA worth more than her annual salary, and was utterly loyal. "Miss Montgomery," she said quietly, using the name Derek never heard. "Everything's prepared?" "Everything," I confirmed. "Emma just ate and should go down for her morning nap soon. I should be back by noon." "Take your time. We'll be fine." I kissed Emma's head one more time, breathing in her baby shampoo smell. "Mommy will be back soon, sweetheart. When I come home, everything will be different. Better." The Aston Martin was waiting at my private storage facility, 15 minutes from the house. I'd called ahead, had them prep it and pull it around. The moment I slid behind the wheel, I felt the final piece of myself click back into place. This was who I really was. Not the woman in Target dresses driving a sensible Toyota, but the woman in designer suits driving a car that cost more than most houses. The woman who'd turned a trust fund into a fortune, who'd built something that would outlast any marriage, any betrayal. Stephanie Winter's office occupied the entire top floor of a downtown high-rise. I'd been here before years ago when I'd first had the prenup drafted. Stephanie had looked at me then, a young woman about to marry, and said something I'd never forgotten. "You're preparing for the worst," she'd told me. "That's smart. Most people think they're different, that love will conquer all. But the smart ones, the ones who survive, They know better. They prepare. I'd prepared. And now the preparation was about to pay off. The conference room was already full when I arrived. Stephanie at the head of the table, 3 associates flanking her, Marcus in the corner with our corporate counsel, and a woman I didn't recognize taking notes on a laptop. "Claire," Stephanie rose, extending her hand. "Good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances." "I don't," I said, surprising myself with the honesty. "This has been coming for a long time. I'm almost relieved." "Good. Because what we're about to do requires absolute conviction." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Shall we begin?" I sat, placing my phone on the table. "I have recordings from last night. My husband practicing his divorce speech. He doesn't know I heard." One of the associates' eyebrows rose. "Practicing." "For at least 20 minutes, I confirmed. Planning his strategy, discussing his affair with his assistant, talking about how he's going to take our daughter and leave me with nothing." Stephanie's smile was sharp as a blade. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That plus the prenup, plus the infidelity evidence, plus your actual financial position?" She spread a stack of documents across the table. "Derek Richardson is about to have the worst day of his life." "Multiple worst days," Marcus interjected. "Once we're done with him legally, the board meeting is scheduled for next week. Corporate espionage, breach of fiduciary duty, sharing confidential information with a non-employee. He'll be lucky if we don't press criminal charges." The unnamed woman in the corner looked up from her laptop. "I'm Rebecca Tran, private investigator. I've been documenting Derek's activities for the past 3 months per Mr. Chen's instructions." She pulled up a presentation on the large screen behind Stephanie. "This is what we've compiled." The screen filled with images. Derek and Jessica at restaurants, hands intertwined across candlelit tables. Derek and Jessica entering a hotel, time-stamped at 2:37 p.m. on a Tuesday when he'd texted me about a client meeting. Derek and Jessica shopping together, him carrying bags from Tiffany's, the same store where he'd claimed his work gift watch came from. "There's more," Rebecca continued. Audio recordings from their regular lunch spot, where they discussed Derek's plans for the divorce. Video footage of Jessica entering Derek's home office when you were out with Emma. And most damning, records showing that Derek's been using company resources to plan his personal life, including using work computers to research divorce attorneys and asset hiding strategies. "Asset hiding?" I repeated slowly. "What assets does he think he has?" Stephanie consulted her notes. "According to his search history, he believes the house is jointly owned. He thinks your investment accounts are marital property. He's under the impression that he'll walk away with at least half of everything, plus primary custody of Emma based on his stable income versus your unemployment." The room fell silent for a moment. Then Marcus started laughing, a sound somewhere between genuine amusement and dark satisfaction. "He has no idea," Marcus said. "Absolutely no idea." "No," I agreed. "He doesn't." Stephanie pulled up the prenup on her laptop, the document Derek had signed 9 years ago. "This agreement is ironclad. Everything you brought into the marriage stays yours. Everything purchased during the marriage with your funds stays yours. Everything titled in your name or your holding companies stays yours. Derek's entitled to exactly what he came in with. His personal effects, his car which is still being financed, and his 401k from work, which we control," Marcus added helpfully, "majority shareholders. The custody piece is particularly interesting," Stephanie continued. "Derek's documented evidence of you being a bad mother actually works in our favor. It shows premeditation, calculation, and a willingness to distort reality for personal gain. No judge will look favorably on that, especially when we present our evidence. One of the associates, a young woman with sharp eyes and sharper suit, spoke up. "We've compiled character witnesses, your nanny, who will testify to your excellent care of Emma, your pediatrician, who has records of every checkup, every vaccine, every careful attention to detail, your daughter's development assessments showing she's thriving. Meanwhile, Derek's own computer history shows he's researched boarding schools for toddlers." "He what?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Boarding schools," the associate repeated. "Specifically, ones that take children as young as 3. Apparently, Jessica doesn't want to be an instant mother. She wants Derek, but not his daughter." The room swam for a moment. My hands gripped the edge of the conference table, knuckles white. All the careful planning, all the strategic thinking, all the cold calculation evaporated in the face of that single fact. He would send Emma away, my daughter, to make room for his mistress who didn't want to deal with a toddler. "Claire," Stephanie's voice cut through the red haze, "breathe. This is good for us. Terrible for him, but good for us. No judge in any state will grant him primary custody when we show he's planning to send his daughter away." I forced air into my lungs, forced the rage back down into something useful. "Show me everything, every piece of evidence, every angle of attack. I want to see exactly how we're going to destroy him." And they did. For the next 2 hours, Stephanie and her team walked me through every element of their strategy. The filing timeline designed to catch Derek completely off guard. The custody evaluation we'd preemptively requested, knowing it would show me as the primary caregiver. The financial disclosures that would reveal Derek's relative poverty compared to my wealth. The infidelity evidence that would eliminate any claim to alimony or support. But the piece de resistance was the corporate angle. As majority shareholders in Richardson Pharmaceuticals, Marcus explained, pulling up the company structure on the screen, we have a fiduciary duty to protect company interests. Derek's relationship with Jessica, who is not just an employee, but an employee with access to confidential information, represents a massive liability. She signed NDAs, I pointed out. "Which she's violated," Rebecca interjected. "We have recordings of her and Derek discussing proprietary drug trials, merger discussions, and financial projections. All information that should never leave company premises, all shared in bed at restaurants in her apartment." "So we don't just fire him," I said slowly, understanding dawning. "We make an example of him." "Exactly," Stephanie confirmed. "Corporate espionage charges, breach of contract, violation of fiduciary duty. Even if criminal charges don't stick, the civil case will bury him. No pharmaceutical company will touch him after this. His entire career, gone." It should have felt like too much. Divorce, custody, financial ruin, career destruction. It should have felt like overkill. But then I remembered Derek's voice through the baby monitor, the calculation, the cruelty, the plan to take my daughter. "When do we start?" I asked. Stephanie checked her watch. "The divorce papers are already prepared. We can file within the hour. By the time Derek gets home tonight, he'll be served. The corporate investigation launches tomorrow morning at the board meeting. By end of week, his life as he knows it will be over." "And Emma?" "Emergency custody motion, filed simultaneously with the divorce papers. Given the evidence of his plans to send her away, combined with his infidelity and your superior position as primary caregiver, I'd say we have better than 90% chance of immediate temporary full custody, with him getting supervised visitation at best." I thought of Emma, asleep at home with Sarah, my daughter, who deserved better than a father who saw her as an inconvenience, who deserved a life built on truth instead of lies. "Do it," I said. File everything. The room erupted into coordinated action. Associates dispersing to prepare documents, Rebecca heading out to coordinate with process servers, Marcus on his phone with the company's board members. Stephanie remained seated across from me, studying my face with professional intensity. "You're sure about this?" she asked quietly. "Once we start, there's no going back. Derek will fight, and it won't be pretty. I'm sure. He'll claim you deceived him about your finances. I protected myself from exactly what he's trying to do now. He'll paint you as manipulative, controlling, cold. I've been called worse by better people." Stephanie smiled then, a real smile that reached her eyes. "You know what? I think you're going to be fine. More than fine. You're going to come out of this stronger than ever." "I built an empire," I said simply. "This is just removing a termite infestation." By noon, the papers were filed. The process server was stationed outside Derek's office, waiting for him to emerge for lunch. The emergency custody motion was submitted to family court, with an expedited hearing scheduled for the following morning. I drove home in the Aston Martin, no longer caring who saw. The Toyota would be sold. The modest lifestyle packed away. The truth was out now, at least legally, and soon everyone would know it. Sarah was reading to Emma when I walked in. My daughter cuddled on her lap with a picture book about animals. They both looked up as I entered, Emma's face splitting into a huge smile. "Mama!" I scooped her up, holding her tight. "Hi, baby girl. Did you have fun with Sarah?" "Park. We went park." "You did? That's wonderful." Sarah stood, collecting Emma's toys from around the living room. "She's been perfect. Ate all her lunch, went down for her nap without a fuss." "Thank you, Sarah. I know this was sudden." "Miss Montgomery," Sarah said carefully, "is everything okay?" I hesitated, then decided truth was better than fiction. Sarah would know soon enough anyway. "Everything's going to change very quickly. My husband doesn't know about my real job, my real finances. He's planning to divorce me and take Emma. Instead, I filed first this morning. He'll be served within the hour." Sarah's eyes widened. "Oh my God." "I need you to be here tomorrow for the custody hearing. Character witness testifying to Emma's care and routine." "Can you do that?" "Absolutely. Whatever you need." "Thank you." After Sarah left, I sat on the floor with Emma, building blocks into increasingly precarious towers that she'd shriek with delight while knocking down. My phone buzzed periodically with updates. Derek had been served at 1:37 p.m., right outside his office building. According to the process server's report, he'd gone pale, grabbed the papers, and rushed back inside. Jessica had followed him, and 15 minutes later, there'd been raised voices audible from the parking lot. At 2:15 p.m., I received a call from an unknown number. I answered on speaker, continuing to stack blocks with Emma. "Claire!" Derek's voice, tight with controlled fury. "What the hell is this?" "I believe they're called divorce papers," I said calmly. "Though I'm sure you're familiar with the format, given how much research you did." A pause. "You knew. How long have you known?" "That you were planning to divorce me? Since about 2:17 this morning when you practiced your speech on the baby monitor." Another pause, longer this time. "The baby monitor. You should really check what devices are transmitting before you rehearse your performances, Derek. This is insane. You can't just..." "I can, and I have. You'll want to read the full filing carefully, all of it, especially the financial disclosures and the custody motion." "What custody motion? You're unemployed, Claire. You have no income. No judge is going to..." "Read the documents, Derek. Then we'll talk. Or rather, our lawyers will talk. I have nothing more to say to you." I hung up before he could respond. Emma looked up at me, blocks forgotten. "Dada?" "Daddy's at work, sweetheart. He'll see you soon." My phone immediately rang again. Same number. I declined the call. It rang 4 more times before finally stopping. At 3 p.m., Marcus called. "He knows," Marcus said without preamble. Derek just stormed into his director's office, demanding to know why his wife is listed as a majority shareholder in company documents. And his director confirmed it. Derek's now aware that he works for his wife's company. His boss is currently trying to calm him down before security has to get involved. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I just felt tired. "What's his reaction?" According to my source in that office, he threw a stapler at the wall, called you some very creative names, and then locked himself in a conference room. Jessica went in after him. They've been in there for 20 minutes. The board meeting is still tomorrow? 9 a.m. sharp. All members confirmed. We'll present the evidence of corporate espionage. They'll vote to terminate with cause. He'll be escorted out by security before lunch. And Jessica. Her too. Shared liability. Emma tugged on my sleeve, pointing to the window where birds were gathering around the feeder Derek had installed last spring. Such a normal moment in such an abnormal day. "Keep me updated," I told Marcus. "I need to focus on Emma right now." "Understood." "Oh, and Claire, you did the right thing. He was going to take everything from you. You just beat him to it." After we hung up, I carried Emma to the window to watch the birds. She pressed her hands against the glass, babbling in her toddler language about birdies and fly. "That's right, baby," I murmured. "They fly away when they need to. They protect themselves." My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. "You manipulative bitch. You lied to me for 9 years. You made me think I was taking care of you when you were secretly rich the whole time. I loved you, and you lied." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. "I protected myself from exactly what you're trying to do now, and I didn't lie. I never said I was poor. You assumed. You saw what you wanted to see. A woman you could control, provide for, and eventually discard when someone younger came along. The only mistake I made was believing you were different." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "This isn't over. I'll fight you for Emma. I'll tell everyone how you deceived me. No court will—" "Read the documents, Derek, all of them, including the prenup you signed without reading. Including the recordings I have of you planning this divorce, including the evidence of your affair and your plan to send our daughter to boarding school so your mistress doesn't have to be inconvenienced. Then tell me what you think a court will do." No response this time. I blocked the number and returned my attention to Emma, to the birds, to the peaceful afternoon that belied the chaos I'd unleashed. The house phone rang at 5 p.m. I almost didn't answer it, but Emma was reaching for it, saying, phone, in her excited toddler voice. "Hello? Claire Richardson?" An official-sounding voice. "This is Judge Catherine Martinez's office. We have your emergency custody motion scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Judge Martinez wanted to inform you personally that given the evidence submitted, she's granting temporary full custody, effective immediately pending tomorrow's hearing. Mr. Richardson is not to have unsupervised contact with the minor child until further notice." I closed my eyes, relief flooding through me. "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for calling." "Mrs. Richardson, I've been on the bench for 23 years. I've seen a lot of custody cases. The evidence you've submitted showing intent to send a toddler to boarding school is concerning. Very concerning. Mr. Richardson will have his chance to respond tomorrow, but as of this moment, Emma Richardson is to remain solely in your custody." After the call ended, I held Emma a little tighter. She squirmed, protesting the sudden constraint, and I loosened my grip. "Sorry, baby. Mama's just happy. Very happy." The rest of the afternoon passed in strange normalcy. I made Emma dinner, mac and cheese with cut-up chicken, her favorite. We played with her dolls, read books, had bath time. All the rituals of our daily life, except Derek wasn't here and wouldn't be coming home. At 7 p.m., I heard a car pull into the driveway. My heart rate spiked until I checked the security camera, expecting Derek. Instead, it was Marcus, getting out of his Tesla. I opened the door before he could knock. "You didn't need to come." "Yes, I did." He held up a bag from my favorite Thai restaurant. "You need to eat, and I figured you wouldn't think about it." He was right. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, my stomach in knots all day. We sat at the kitchen table while Emma played nearby, spreading out documents between plates of pad thai and curry. Marcus walked me through what would happen tomorrow. The custody, hearing at 9 a.m., the board meeting at 10 a.m., the likely timeline for the divorce proceedings. "Stephanie thinks we can have everything finalized within 3 months, Marcus said. "Given the prenup and Derek's lack of actual assets, there's not much to divide. The custody piece will take longer, but with the evidence we have, she's confident you'll have primary custody locked down within a week." 3 months, I repeated. 9 years of marriage, over in 3 months. "You sound almost sad." "I'm not. I pushed the noodles around my plate. "I thought I was careful, Marcus. I thought I'd protected myself. But I still fell for the same trap. A man who seemed perfect, who said all the right things, who turned out to be exactly like all the others. Hey." Marcus reached across the table, covering my hand with his. "You did protect yourself. That's why you're sitting here eating Thai food while your soon-to-be ex-husband is panicking in his car outside his mistress's apartment, trying to figure out how his life imploded in 6 hours. You won, Claire. You always win." A sound from the driveway made us both look up. Through the window, I could see headlights. Derek's BMW pulling in, parking next to Marcus's Tesla. "He can't come in," Marcus said immediately. "Court order. He tries to enter, you call the police." But Derek didn't try to enter. He got out of his car, looking haggard even from a distance, and just stood there staring at the house. Our house. My house. My phone rang. Derek's number, one I hadn't blocked yet. I answered, watching him through the window. "You need to leave." "Please." His voice was raw. "Please, let me see Emma. Just for a minute. I'm her father, Claire. You can't just—" "The court says I can. Temporary full custody as of 2 hours ago. You'll get supervised visitation after the hearing tomorrow, assuming you show up and don't make things worse." "I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you've been lying to me for 9 years. Do you have any idea how that feels? To find out your entire marriage was based on deception?" "Actually," I said, watching him through the window, "I do know how that feels. I found out last night that you've been planning to leave me, take my daughter, and start a new life with your mistress." "So yes, Derek, I know exactly how that feels." He flinched, visible even from a distance. "That's different. I was going to tell you. I just needed to—" "Practice your speech?" I interrupted. "Plan your strategy? Document my supposed failures as a mother? Build your case while pretending everything was fine?" Silence. "Go to your mistress's apartment, Derek. Go to your mother's house. Go anywhere but here. This isn't your home anymore, and it never really was. Tomorrow you'll learn exactly why." I hung up, and after a long moment, he got back in his BMW and drove away. Marcus let out a breath. "You did good, Claire. I know that wasn't easy." "Actually," I said, surprising myself, "it was. The hardest part was staying silent for so long. Now I'm done being silent. Now I get to tell the truth." That night, after Marcus left and Emma was asleep, I sat in my real office with my real computers, looking at my real life displayed across 3 monitors. Meridian's quarterly earnings, up 15%. The portfolio of companies we'd acquired, thriving. The real estate holdings, generating steady income. The net worth that kept climbing despite market volatility. This was who I was. Not Derek's unemployed wife, but Claire Montgomery Richardson, the woman who'd built all of this before she was 30, who'd protected it with careful precision, who was now cutting away the dead weight that had been holding her back. My phone buzzed one last time. "Stephanie. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Wear something professional but motherly. Judge Martinez is tough but fair. Show her you're serious, capable, and focused on Emma's best interests." "I will be." "Good. Because Derek's lawyer just filed a counter motion claiming fraudulent misrepresentation in the marriage and seeking an emergency stay of the custody order. It's baseless and won't go anywhere, but he's going to fight." "Let him fight," I said, looking at my empire spread across the monitors. "I didn't build all this by being afraid of a battle." "That's what I like to hear. See you tomorrow, Claire. And get some sleep. You're going to need your energy." But I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay in my bed, in my house, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the moment 9 years ago when Derek had proposed. We'd been dating for 6 months, and he'd seemed so genuine, so different from the men who'd only wanted my money. "I don't need you to be rich," he'd said, kneeling in that overpriced restaurant. "I just need you to be mine." I'd said yes, believing I'd finally found someone who loved me for me. But the truth was, Derek had loved an illusion. A version of me that was small, manageable, safe. He'd never wanted the real me. He'd wanted someone he could save, someone who would be grateful for his provision, someone who would never challenge him. Well, tomorrow he was going to meet the real me. And every day after that, for however long this battle lasted, he'd be facing the woman he'd underestimated. The woman who'd won before the game even started. The courtroom smelled like old wood and nervous anticipation. I sat at the plaintiff's table in my Armani suit, Stephanie beside me reviewing notes, while Derek and his hastily hired attorney occupied the other side. He looked terrible. Rumpled shirt, dark circles under his eyes, the confident swagger completely gone. Judge Martinez entered at exactly 9 a.m., her presence commanding immediate silence. "I've reviewed both motions," she began without preamble. "Mr. Richardson, your counter motion claims fraudulent misrepresentation. You'll need to be more specific." Derek's attorney, a nervous man named Patterson, who'd clearly taken the case last minute, stood shakily. "Your Honor, Mrs. Richardson concealed her true financial status throughout the marriage. My client believed he was the primary breadwinner when in fact his wife had protected her premarital assets through a valid prenuptial agreement that Mr. Richardson signed." Judge Martinez's eyebrow arched. "I've read the prenup, counselor. It's very clear. Mrs. Richardson was under no obligation to disclose the full extent of her wealth, and the agreement your client signed explicitly states he acknowledged her separate property." Patterson faltered. "Yes, but Your Honor, the deception is not relevant to custody," the judge interrupted. "What is relevant is this." She held up a printed document. "Evidence that Mr. Richardson researched boarding schools for his 2-year-old daughter. Care to explain that, Mr. Richardson?" Derek stood, his voice tight. That was just preliminary research. I wasn't actually planning. Your search history shows 14 different facilities, Mr. Richardson. You even requested brochures from 3 of them. All schools that accept children as young as 3. Judge Martinez's expression hardened. And this was while simultaneously planning to seek primary custody? My girlfriend, Jessica, she works long hours, and we thought... You thought you'd send your daughter away so she wouldn't inconvenience your new relationship? The judge's voice could have frozen water. Mr. Richardson, I've been very patient, but you're not helping your case. Stephanie rose smoothly. Your Honor, we also have recordings of Mr. Richardson practicing his divorce speech, during which he explicitly states his intention to claim primary custody based on Mrs. Richardson's supposed unemployment and inferior parenting, when in reality, Mrs. Richardson has been the primary caregiver throughout Emma's life. We have testimony from the nanny, the pediatrician, and developmental specialists all confirming that Emma Richardson is a thriving, well-adjusted child who has flourished under her mother's care. I've seen that evidence, Judge Martinez said. Mrs. Richardson, you've been the primary caregiver? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. Every doctor's appointment, every milestone, every night feeding. I've been there for all of it. And your employment status? I'm a managing partner at Meridian Capital Group, Your Honor. I work primarily from home, which has allowed me to be present for my daughter while managing my professional responsibilities. Derek made a choking sound. Judge Martinez silenced him with a look. Mr. Richardson, did you know about your wife's position at Meridian Capital? No, Derek said bitterly. She lied about everything. She protected her assets through legal means, the judge corrected. There's a difference. And given the evidence of your affair, your plans for the child, and your apparent shock that your wife isn't financially dependent on you, I'm inclined to maintain the temporary custody order. She looked at both attorneys. Full custody remains with Mrs. Richardson. Mr. Richardson will have supervised visitation 2 hours every Saturday afternoon, location to be determined by Mrs. Richardson's counsel. We'll reconvene in 30 days for a full custody evaluation. Derek's attorney tried to protest, but the judge's gavel came down with finality. Outside the courtroom, Derek caught my arm in the hallway. Claire, please. This is insane. She's my daughter, too. I pulled away. You were going to send her to boarding school, Derek. Our 2-year-old daughter. I wasn't. That was just... He ran his hand through his hair. Jessica and I were just discussing options. I would never actually... You documented my parenting failures. You planned to take her from me. You practiced your speech where you'd paint yourself as the stable parent. I kept my voice level, professional. You made your choices. Now you live with the consequences. Everything I did, you did worse, he said, desperation creeping into his voice. You lied about who you were for 9 years. You let me believe I was supporting you when you were secretly a millionaire. Billionaire, I corrected quietly. Meridian's portfolio is worth nearly $3 billion. My personal net worth is approximately $400 million. His face went white. $400 million? Give or take. The market fluctuates. I checked my watch. Your board meeting should be starting right about now. You should probably head over. What board meeting? The one where they discuss your termination for corporate espionage and sharing confidential information with Jessica Hartman, who is also being terminated. I tilted my head. Did you really think Meridian only owned 70% of Richardson Pharmaceuticals? We own 85% as of last month. The board answers to us, to me. Derek stared at me like he'd never seen me before. You're destroying my entire life. No, I said calmly. You destroyed your own life when you decided to betray your family. I'm just removing you from mine." I walked away, leaving him standing in the courthouse hallway, the ruins of his carefully planned future crumbling around him. 3 months later, I sat in the park watching Emma chase pigeons, her laughter bright and clear in the autumn air. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. Derek got his car, his clothes, and a stern warning from the judge about his behavior. No alimony. The prenup had been ironclad. Minimal visitation. The custody evaluation had been damning. Jessica had left him within days of them both being fired, moving back to Connecticut with her trust fund intact. Derek's mother had stopped calling after the 5th time I politely declined her demands to be reasonable, and Derek himself had disappeared to Seattle, where apparently one of his former colleagues had offered him a junior position at a startup, from vice president to junior employee. The fall had been spectacular. My phone buzzed. "Marcus. Board meeting wrapped up. The Johnson acquisition is approved. You're officially adding another $200 million to the portfolio." "Excellent. Send the details to my office." "Also," Derek called again, "7th time this month. Still insisting he wants to work things out." I watched Emma squat down to examine a particularly brave pigeon. "Block the number. We communicate through lawyers only." "Already done. Hey, are we still on for dinner tomorrow? I want to discuss the Singapore expansion." "Sounds good, but Marcus, thank you. For everything." That's what partners do, Claire. We protect each other. After we hung up, I thought about the past 3 months. The media attention when my identity became public. Mysterious billionaire was hiding in plain sight as housewife. The shocked reactions from Derek's friends and colleagues. The awkward phone calls from people I'd known during my struggling consultant phase, suddenly very interested in reconnecting. But mostly, I thought about freedom. Freedom to be myself completely. To drop the performance of being less than I was. To show Emma that women could be powerful, successful, and unapologetic about it. "Mama, bird!" Emma ran back to me, pointing excitedly. "I see it, baby. Very pretty bird." She climbed into my lap, her small body warm and solid. Real. Mine. Derek had thought he could practice his way into a better life, could rehearse the perfect speech, execute the perfect plan, emerge victorious. But he'd forgotten that some women don't wait to be divorced. Some women file first. Some women own the whole game. A notification popped up on my phone. Sarah texted, "Just confirmed. New nanny starts Monday. She's wonderful. You'll love her. Also, Emma's birthday party planning is on track. 20 kids confirmed." Emma's 3rd birthday was coming up. 3 years since she'd entered my life and changed everything. Made me more careful, more protective, more determined to build a world where she could be anything she wanted without apologizing for it. Derek had wanted to send her away, to hide her from his new girlfriend's sight, to treat her like an inconvenience. Instead, she was the center of my entire universe, the reason I'd fought so hard, the person who made every difficult decision worthwhile. "Ice cream?" Emma asked hopefully, her dark eyes, Derek's eyes, though I tried not to think about that, looking up at me. "Ice cream," I agreed, standing and lifting her onto my hip. As we walked toward the ice cream truck, my phone buzzed one more time, an email from Stephanie. "Claire, Derek's attorney filed another motion requesting modification of custody arrangement. Same arguments as before. Judge Martinez already denied it. He's grasping at straws. Thought you should know, but don't worry about it. This is over. You won." I deleted the email and focused on Emma, who was debating loudly between chocolate and strawberry. Derek could keep filing motions, could keep trying to rewrite history, to paint himself as the victim, to claim I'd somehow wronged him by protecting myself. But the truth was simple. I'd spent 9 years playing a role to protect my assets and my heart. When Derek decided to destroy our family for a younger woman and a fantasy future, I'd simply stopped playing. The real Claire had emerged, successful, wealthy, powerful, and completely done with men who saw women as accessories to their ambitions rather than whole people with their own. Both, Emma decided, pointing at the ice cream flavors. Chocolate and strawberry. Both it is, I agreed, ordering a twist cone for her and vanilla for myself. We sat on a park bench, Emma's face already smeared with ice cream, completely content in the moment. No thoughts of divorce courts or bitter ex-husbands or the complexity of adult relationships. Just ice cream and sunshine and Mama. This was what Derek had been willing to throw away. This perfect, sticky-fingered, giggling little person who loved me unconditionally, not because of my money or my success, but just because I was Mama. His loss. My gain. Emma's security. A woman walked by pushing a stroller, and Emma waved enthusiastically. Baby. Yes, that's a baby. You were that small once. Big now. Very big. Growing every day. My phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it, but the caller ID showed my father. Dad? Claire. Heard about the divorce being finalized. How are you holding up? I watched Emma lick melted ice cream off her fingers, completely absorbed in her task. I'm good, Dad. Really good. That bastard never deserved you. I knew it from the start. You never said anything. You needed to figure it out yourself, but I'm glad you got out, and I'm glad you protected yourself the way I taught you. My father, who'd built his own empire from nothing, who'd raised me to be careful with trust and generous with protection, who'd shown me that success wasn't something to apologize for or hide. I learned from the best, I said. Damn right you did. Now, about Emma's birthday party next month. I want to be there, and I'm bringing that giant dollhouse she'll need a forklift to move. I laughed. Dad, she's 3. She doesn't need a mansion-sized dollhouse. My granddaughter deserves the best. End of discussion. After we said goodbye, I sat back on the bench, Emma now investigating a trail of ants with intense concentration. The park was full of families, parents pushing swings, kids playing soccer, dogs chasing tennis balls. Normal life, the kind Derek had wanted to rip away from us so he could start fresh with Jessica. But normal life wasn't about perfect Instagram moments or practiced speeches. It was this: sticky fingers and melted ice cream and a 3-year-old's fascination with insects. It was coming home to your own, space without walking on eggshells, wondering if today would be the day your husband finally delivered his practice speech. It was being fully yourself, successful, powerful, wealthy, and not having to pretend to be less to make someone else comfortable. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy, Claire. You got everything you wanted. The money, the house, my daughter. I hope it was worth it. Destroying our family. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. I didn't destroy our family, Derek. You did, the moment you decided to cheat and plan to send our daughter away. I just refused to be destroyed along with it. There's a difference. Then I blocked the number and put my phone on silent. Emma looked up from the ants. Ice cream forgotten. Home now, Mama? Yes, baby. Let's go home. Home to the house that was mine, fully and completely. Home to the life I'd built, protected, and defended. home to a future where Emma would grow up watching her mother be unapologetically successful, where she'd learn that women don't have to make themselves smaller to make others comfortable. As we walked to the car, the Aston Martin, no more pretending with the Toyota, I thought about Derek's practiced speech. All those rehearsals, all that planning, all that confidence that he could control the narrative. He'd forgotten the most important rule. Never underestimate a woman who's been preparing for your betrayal since the day she said, "I do." The baby monitor had been his mistake. But really, the mistake had been made years before, when he'd looked at me and seen someone he could use, control, and eventually discard. He'd seen an unemployed housewife when he should have seen a billionaire playing a part. He'd seen a woman he could defeat when he should have seen an opponent who'd already won. And now, driving home with Emma singing nonsense songs in her car seat, I realized something important. I wasn't angry anymore. The rage that had fueled those first few days had burned itself out, leaving only clarity. Derek had done me a favor. By showing his true nature, by planning my destruction, he'd freed me from the exhausting performance of being his unthreatening wife. He'd given me permission to be fully myself again. For that, in a strange way, I was almost grateful. We pulled into the driveway, past the Johnsons' house and the Patel's house, properties they'd never know were mine. Emma was already unbuckling herself, eager to get inside and play with her toys. "Mama, can we have pizza dinner?" "We can absolutely have pizza dinner." "With Ronies?" "With pepperonis. Lots of them." She squealed with delight, racing toward the front door. This was victory. Not the courtroom triumph or the financial devastation of my ex-husband, though those were satisfying. Real victory was this: my daughter, happy and secure, growing up in a home built on truth instead of lies. Real victory was being able to wake up every morning without wondering if today would be the day my husband's mask finally slipped completely. Real victory was freedom. I followed Emma inside, closing the door on the past and everything it represented. Somewhere in Seattle, Derek was probably still crafting speeches, still practicing his lines, still trying to convince himself he'd been the victim in our story. Let him practice. Let him rehearse. Let him spend the rest of his life perfecting the narrative where he was wronged and I was the villain. Meanwhile, I'd be here, building my empire, raising my daughter, and living the life I'd always had. The one Derek never knew existed until it destroyed him. The baby monitor sat on the kitchen counter where I'd left it that night 3 months ago. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. Such a simple device. Such a catastrophic mistake on Derek's part. "Mama, what's that?" "Just something we don't need anymore, baby." I walked it out to the garage, placed it in a box marked donations, and closed the lid. Some things were better left in the past. When I came back inside, Emma had already dumped out her entire toy box, creating her usual chaos of blocks and dolls and books. I sat down beside her, and she immediately climbed into my lap. "Love you, Mama. Love you too, Emma. So much. We happy?" Out of the mouths of babes. "Yes, sweetheart. We're very happy." And we were. For the first time in 9 years, I was completely, authentically happy. No performance, no pretense, no fear of the other shoe dropping. Just me, my daughter, and the life I'd built. The one Derek never knew about. The one he couldn't touch. The one that would carry us forward into whatever came next. The baby monitor had caught his practice speech. But what Derek never realized was that I'd been rehearsing too, not speeches, but strategies, not words, but actions, not fantasy futures, but real protection. When he'd been practicing how to leave me, I'd been practicing how to survive him. And in the end, I'd practiced better. My phone lit up with one final message. Marcus, congratulations on your freedom. Now let's go make another billion. I smiled, typed back, sounds like a plan, and turned my attention to where it belonged. On Emma, on this moment, on the future we'd build together. Derek could keep his practiced speeches. I'd take my authentic life any day. The end. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.